Your heart, you're a veteran, you're welcome to salute. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Huffler. Roll call, please. Director Huffler. Here. Director Holt. Director Lang.
Here.
Director Huffler.
Yes.
Director Nichols.
Yes.
It appears we have no special presentations tonight,
No.
so we move on to items from the public. We have quite a few people here to speak. Just for information, the only change that we are considering are lights. I know there's been a big list of things that would be changing, but the only thing that would be changing is lights so that people can exercise their horses in the winter. So, we'll start again.
Well, and if I may, Board Chair, just as a point of order, just so that you guys all know, the Brown Act doesn't allow us to discuss anything that's not listed on the agenda. Most of you guys are familiar with that. So we don't have the lighting project for Rancho Patrol Community Equestrian Center on the agenda. So the board will gladly listen. We'll all listen to everything everybody's got to say, but we won't really be able to then have a board discussion and make any decisions. So so just so you're aware, and generally it's a 3-minute comment period. Oh, and Aline, because we don't have the sophisticated timers and all that stuff, we have a 1 minute and then stop. So you'll be there, you'll get the like, hey, you got a minute left, and then you know, she'll slowly turn the thing over. So yeah, there you go.
I was here at 6 sharp on that clock, but it's already started.
Yeah, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. We're glad that you're here and we're happy to do the comment. So, but as Mr. Friedel said, we're not voting on this right now. And so we're happy to hear your comments and we're interested in what you think. So we are, you know, having a discussion, but we are listening. So thank you for coming. So, Gary Pensive. You want to come and put it in order that you want? It's fine with me. Okay, so Mark, you were next. Well, I'm going to put you in the back. Okay, is that all right, Gary? Okay.
He didn't.
Okay, so we're going to go with Mark Jones, and just for our, if you would just please announce your name when you come up and where you live, that would be fabulous. Thank you.
Good evening, CRPD board members and Mr. Friedel and staff. For the record, my name is Mark Jones and I live in Newbury Park. I'd like to introduce all of our residents from Verazon and Estancia that have come to support us. A couple of people have come to speak. But over the past 2 months, my committee members have come before you and spoken to you with the utmost respect relative to the Rancho Patrero Equestrian Center. Unfortunately, our community residents have not received the same respect dealing with CRPD. Over the past several months, we've put forth the concept that our great democratic republic was founded on. Government of the people, by the people, for the people. A democratic government works and represents the people that elect them, not the other way around. Unfortunately, today we find ourselves in the position where the CRPD is telling our residents what is good for them without even asking for any public input. You will likely be making a key recommendation at tomorrow's ad hoc committee meeting regarding the future of the Equestrian Center. Dave Hetwer and myself have repeatedly asked if we could attend and or participate. And if we could attend and participate, and you've never responded back. It's no wonder that Americans are losing faith in our government. Recently, I informed you that the CRPD's action to implement their own proposals without public input for the Rancho Patrero Equestrian Center has awoken a sleeping giant from within my community. As we speak, other community members are addressing and informing the greater Dos Vientos HOA regarding our proposals. or your proposals for the Equestrian Center, and our opposition membership is growing exponentially. We may be slow, but we're dedicated and very effective. Back in November of last year, you sent out an ambiguous letter to our community residents, inviting them to hear your presentation on lighting improvements at the Equestrian Center's Western Arena. If your organization was totally transparent, you would have delineated the fact that you were proposing 6 50-foot LED light standards, but you didn't. At one of the 2 meetings in November at the Equestrian Center, unannounced to the resident members there, CRPD Board President, Mr. Doug Nichols, was in attendance. To not introduce Mr. Nichols to our residents was unprofessional, to say the least. We still wonder why Mr. Nichols remained incognito at the event. He's the chairman of the CRPD board, for heaven's sakes. Transparency? I don't think so. November 4th of last year, Mr. Hare informed the CRPD board that their proposal is just a minor modification to the 2005 special use permit. Modifying current regulations and laws which currently require a maximum light standard height of 18 feet for public safety, not specific to the arenas, to installing 6 50-foot LED lights at the Western Arena is a minor modification. By definition, this is a true government overreach by CRPD. Where is the line of demarcation between a minor modification and a major modification? Can you install a new heliport at the Equestrian Center under the disguise of a minor modification for wealthy parents to fly in to watch a small number of kids ride in the arena at night? A person with common sense would say no. This CRPD proposal to install 6 50-foot LEDs at the Western Arena should be an amendment to the 2010 specific plan, requiring more community input, comprehensive research, and updated environmental impact report.
Thank you. Could you wrap up your comments?
Thank you. Our opposition committee has undertaken the task of reviewing every publication, video, and CRPD board meeting recording for the past few years to get a real picture of how CRPD acts and thinks and functions. On January 19th of this year, well after 2 November 21 community meetings at the Equestrian Center, and after multiple emails and letters from our community to you folks, Mr. Nichols published an article in the local publication known as The Guardian. And I'm going to quote what he wrote. The CRPD board was adamant that our community's recreation and social well-being needs must be met, both in present and the future. However, rather than competing against residents, local organizations, and agencies, CRPD chose to partner with them and jointly overcome the challenges. While unanticipated obstacles often plagued the pathway directed by the board and gladiators, we're constantly attempting to break through. CRPD was not to be thwarted. Agility, creativity, perseverance proved to be a winning combination, in quotes. I was encouraged by Mr. Nichols' quote, while at the same time finding it troubling. I guess my community and I, residents, are gladiators that the CRPD needed to thwart. Gladiators, by definition, were armed combatants who entertained audiences in the Roman Empire in violent confrontations with other gladiators, wild animals, some condemned criminals. Some gladiators were volunteers, but the majority were conquered people who were enslaved by the Roman Empire. Mr. Nichols' use of the nouns agility, creativity, perseverance should be replaced with tunnel vision, lack of flexibility, and zero transparency. CRPD has not partnered with our community relative to the Rancho Potrero Equestrian Center. An objective observer could even conclude that CRPD is competing against our wonderful community. Our community gladiators have discovered several significant items that the CRPD has passed, which require significant tax dollar funding without one iota of public interaction. The 40-year lease between Mr. McQueen, the CEO of Ride-On, and CRPD for approximately $50 a year, $2.3 million Equestrian Center budget for lights, possibly amplified speakers, many new horse stalls, enhanced arena foundations for income-producing lessons without public participation. I guess the CRPD could do whatever they want with our tax dollars. With all due respect, my community is comprised of well-educated, professional, and accomplished residents who love their community and surrounding environment. We pay a significant amount of property taxes to support local agencies like CRPD. And we're well aware that several of your board members will be up for re-election, and some may even choose to seek a higher office within our community. Make the correct and ethical decision at tomorrow's important closed-door ad hoc committee meeting and stop government overreach at the Rancho Potrero Equestrian Center and work with our community to achieve a consensus of opinion. By doing so, you'll gain our support for future CRPD bond issues and elections. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Well, Gary, you kind of got right next. I don't know how this happened. It's magic. I thought I put you at the back. I guess you were meant to speak next, so please.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for the time. My name is Gary Pantzer. I've been a resident of Dos Vientos y Estancia community for over 18 years. I'm an attorney by trade. I work in downtown Los Angeles. I've been doing that commute for 18 years, 100 miles round trip. And my wife and I moved. Thank you. The pandemic has been good for remote, working. But I did that commute for 16 years because we moved out to this neighborhood for the peace and quiet and for the enjoyment of the natural setting. Now, I'm here today because I just found out about what is going on with the CRPD board considering improvements for lighting. And of course, as residents of the community, we're not opposed to improvements of the equestrian center. They're much needed. But yet the issue is the lighting. And I got to tell you, just from being a resident in the Estancia community, and I walk my dog every day, multiple times a day, hardly anyone even knows about this. It's not subject to any kind of public proceeding. This is public, but no one really knows about it. I learned about it myself, and I'm a pretty sophisticated customer. I learned about it on a walk with my dog. And before then, I had no idea what was going on with the lights. And I got to tell you, when I found out about the lights and started talking to my neighbors started getting upset. And they were really happy to hear that I was coming here today. And they're not here. But the community is not happy about there being a proposal for 50-foot lights or even less. I mean, it's a ranch adjacent to a national park and across the street to homes. Just the other day, I noticed driving up Lynn Road, for the first time, I think I haven't seen this before in the 18 years I've lived there. There's a new light in the ranch, in the equestrian center area that they put up. I think it must be 10, 15 feet. One single light was glowing for about a quarter mile away. You can see it. So the idea and the notion that there's going to be 50-foot lights on Lynn Road or anything close to that, that just seems so crazy to me. So I just wanted to come here to voice kind of some logical reaction to how can this possibly be? How can the city think that that makes sense for this environment? There's got to be another solution. And I got to tell you, I've been on the board at Newbury Park Pony Baseball, was previously the vice president for the pony baseball. I've sat on board on the executive committee for the Lanterman Regional Center in Los Angeles. And they do a lot of work with horses, with individuals with disabilities. And I understand that this current operator of the equestrian center does that type of work too, which is great. But the idea that you need lights, stadium lights, LED lights, whatever you want to call them, in this neighborhood, this seems outrageous. I sent an email to all of you. I only got a response from the mayor. He responded and told me that the equestrian center serves the citizens who have an interest in horsemanship, and the Recreation and Parks District provides oversight of the operation there. I would anticipate changes to the operation there would be part of a public hearing. I understand that the proposal is currently on hold for further deliberation. I will follow up with my counterparts on the Parks District Board to relay your concerns. So my concerns were more outlined in my email. I would encourage you to look at the email, and I would encourage the board not to do anything with respect to lights until this is actually vetted in the community through a public hearing process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gary. Just for your information, I never got an email from you. So I don't know how that happened, but unless you sent it between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock, I didn't check my email. No, I didn't get an email from you, so I'm sorry. Or maybe I just didn't notice it. Martha Farwell.
Good evening. I'm Martha Farwell, as you said, and I've been a resident of Thousand Oaks for 36 or 38 years, and of the Dos Vientos area for about 20 years of those 38. In the 1980s, our family moved to Thousand Oaks, and we very soon found the area that we loved the most, which was all of the hiking trails around Boney Mountain. At that time, back in 86 through 90, there was no national park or state park protection. So over the years, it was certainly gratifying to see that the area was preserved and would be kept the same way in perpetuity, as far as we could tell. I was aware, especially when we moved to Dos Vientos, I was aware that there was a national park, state park, and city park. The area that's now under the control of CRPD and is the Rancho Pochero. But we really enjoyed, we wanted to move there as soon as the houses were being built. We loved being there. It's wonderful to look out on the mountains in the sunlight or on a rainy day, and especially on clear nights when this vast open bowl of sky is full of stars and with a big outline of Boney Mountain against the sky. So it astonishes me that the CRPD is considering the addition of 6 50-foot light poles with LED lights, which will be immediately adjacent to Lynn Road and across, as mentioned, across the street from homes. Those lights will demand the attention of anybody who lives in those homes and of the people who walk and the people who bicycle and of drivers, of course. So this our national and state parks, the area that has been carefully preserved, does not have lights at all. So what is being proposed is something like putting a gas station, a brilliantly lit gas station in a 7-Eleven down in the bottom of Yosemite Valley, or maybe up on a trail to Tuolumne Meadows. It does not fit. It really doesn't fit. So I have 2 questions for you. I understand that the expansion of the horse ranch was submitted for approval to the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and was approved. So first question, was it clear to the SMCC and MCC that you were planning to install these 6 50-foot light poles? Second question, when the plan was approved, was there a condition of public agreement, of public approval that was included? I did want to mention that there's a parking issue that will have to be dealt with if you're expanding the ranch. And I hope that one of the possibilities would be to move the arenas away, well away from Lynn Road and putting the parking more in the front. I will probably leave it there, but I just have to conclude that we hope that we can count on you to listen to the park neighbors, make sensible plans, and above all, protect this open space that has been preserved for so long in Thousand Oaks. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to mention there are no plans to expand. We don't own any other land there. And one other thing, we're not planning to put up stadium lights. So when you think of stadiums, like at, Thousand Oaks High School, we're not planning to put up those lights, but we'll talk about the lights later. I mean, at the meeting that you're going to be invited to. So, Claudia Marshall.
First of all, I'm not sure you can hear me because I'm short. My name's Claudia Marshall, and I've lived in Dos Vientos, Thousand Oaks for 22 years. I've always enjoyed having the horse ranch across the street, and we've always lived in peaceful coexistence. When I first moved here, we had many meetings with the Thousand Oaks City Council, and they assured us that the horse ranch would always remain a small community facility. Since then, it has changed hands twice and has always stayed small, as befits a rural community. I'm very sad to hear that now they want to expand and put in 50-foot lights and start using the ranch for nighttime activities such as rodeos, which will require loudspeakers. If any of you have ever gone by the ranch, you would observe that it is never crowded. So my first thought is, why are they doing this? There doesn't seem to be any need from the community for night events, and the disruption to the residents, animals, and the environment will be substantial. I've heard that they are helping handicapped and special needs people, but that doesn't require nighttime rides. What is it that they want to do at night that can't be done during the day? Apparently there's it may be a few people that want to train their horses after work, but does that justify disturbing 500 people who live across the street? Sorry. Along with the light pollution and noise pollution, which will alter the natural beauty and peace of the entire area, the traffic and parking will also be a problem. We are all guardians of our open space, and as such have a responsibility to care for the animals, nature, and the peace and serenity, which is so rare and such a wonderful part of Thousand Oaks. The last point I'd like to make is how disturbing the lack of transparency about this entire issue has been. Why don't they compromise or even discuss with the homeowners who will be directly affected? Show us that there's a need and a benefit to these changes. Or is this just a desire to commercialize and make a larger profit at our expense? There's no need for this, so please don't let one of our most beautiful natural resources be destroyed. Thank you for listening.
Ed Cruz.
I'm also short. But first, I think this board should be commended for the recent purchase of that land between Rolling Rock and Rimrock and Rolling Oaks, designated for a future park. I think we should be grateful both to CRPD and to the Goldfield family. My name is Edward Cruz. My family and I have lived in Newbury Park and nearby the Santa Monica Mountains NRA for almost 33 years. Rancho Sierra Vista, Sutwewa, Rancho Potrero are places and words that are known by heart by my two sons. We've been there for a long time. For all the years that we've been there, the Equestrian Center, the Lynn Potrero Equestrian Center, and all of its different names has remained what we've known it to be, a unique, beautiful resource for the local community to board their horses, to board their equestrians, and to access this treasure that are the local trails in the hills. We are not equestrians, my family and I, but we personally know folks that board there. We've even helped with care when there's been fires and storms. But I'm here today because this apparent proposal that's being floated for this wonderful resource is to us nothing short of egregious. The advent of tall, we can put a number on it, we can put a name on it, but the advent of tall, what I would consider stadium commercial level lighting, the possibility of outdoor speakers, the exclusionary move to put in fancy, expensive stables in lieu of the accessible places that we have right now for the community seems toxic. It seems toxic to the quality, the function, and to me, the essential character of the place that we've known for so long. It aims to turn this special place into a show venue, a circus. The 2005 special use permit, I'm sure you folks are aware, clearly defines the limit of 18-foot lights, and this specifically for safety. Similar equestrian centers seem to have been doing just fine with that. But the advent of these lights is really quite weird and exceptional. And I don't describe these lights flippantly. I'm a product designer. I and the engineers that I work with understand LED lighting, especially how they work environmentally. The idea that has been floated that LED photons only manifest when they get to the ground is pretty preposterous. These lights will create projection and refraction that will significantly affect the environment, the folks who live nearby, and impair their quality. And I'm wondering if it would be a hazard to this artery that is Lynn Road immediately adjacent to it, not to mention the effect on local wildlife. I'm personally really concerned with that. So in any case, this initiative warrants honest information so we can do what we all want to do to elicit specific community input. And it warrants an impact report of some kind, an independent assessment really of exactly what the impact on community and environment may be. I certainly haven't seen that. Lastly, I'd just like to say that I feel this board that has really done some damn good work in a lot of its personifications since I've lived here 3 decades, has obfuscated its intentions on this matter. And in fact, it seems to have obfuscated its arrangement with Dr. or Mr. McQueenie, $2.3 million taxpayer dollars to fund income producing assets for an operator that seems to have gotten this thing for free. And it is free. I will gladly pay for a few months rent to Mr. McQueenie if this will actually save us from some of these egregious changes. I'll do it. I'll write the check. I'll Venmo the money. It's just never seems to have been resolved with community input. The CRPD states that it prides itself in welcoming and integrating community input into the decisions that it makes. It's the community that it serves. At least in this instance, I don't see it. Some irate neighbors don't see it. And I tell you with goodwill, if you want community input, you're getting it now.
Paul, would you like to speak? We have a few minutes. I'd love to hear from you. It was very generous of you to give your time.
I spent 5 hours writing a letter. Since I didn't know who you were, I had no access, more than happy to forward to you. 5 hours. I've never written a 5-hour letter. Why did I write a 5-hour letter? Obviously, it must have hit something. I've lived around the world. I grew up in Italy, moved to Rhode Island, and then found what I thought was the equivalent of the hometown that I grew up in Italy. Only to hear that you're going to destroy it with a set of lights. For what? Tell me right now, why are you pursuing these lights? For what reason? No answer? I think I've got the answer. There's some personal advantages on the part of the board, and we will not stand for it. We will not stand for it. You will not change where we live. I've been living there for 20 years. You do it, I will do something about it, and you're not going to like it. It's not a threat. It's a promise, a conviction, because I lived here for 20 years. It's like I'm home in Italy, and there are no lights 50 foot high. to disturb my sighting and whatever it may be. Thank you.
Thank you. We have many cards. And these cards will be given to our executive assistant, and these will be on record. And I want you to know that we appreciate your comments, and it's always at CRPD, it's always our mission to serve our community. And we are listening to you. So thank you very much for coming out. Would you like to say anything, Mr. Friedel?
I would, but first, we do actually have a person on Zoom who would like to comment.
Oh, okay,
So
thank you.
we do have somebody on Zoom, and then I would like the opportunity to just
Okay,
say a few words.
so our Zoom person, I guess, will be bringing you on.
Hello, is it your wife or son? Mr. Neary, can you hear us?
Yes, can you all hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Alessandro Neri, and I live in Dos Vientos along with my father Paul and Claudia, which are in attendance tonight. I've met several of you at the opening of the groundbreaking at the teen center. And I hope that you listen to the citizens of Dos Vientos, my community, in the fact that we do not want this in our area. Hold on. We do not want this in our community. And I stand in support of my fellow Dos Vientos residents. And I think it's egregious, the fact that you guys are even thinking of this. I am hereby disappointed in my fellow Park and Rec board. I want to continue to enjoy the peace and quiet with my dog who walks with me in Dos Vientos, and I stand in opposition of the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Friedel.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to leave some folks with some information before we kind of wrap up public comments here. Mr. Jones kind of started it off, and I just want to say that I'm looking at my email from 2/24, and I may not have communicated clearly, but I said, we appreciate you participating in discussions about CRPD, your local parks, and Rancho Potrero in particular. We hear you and have heard from lots of your neighbors. I just want you to both, this was to you and Dave, the email, feel reassured there won't be surprises. After we meet with the ad hoc committee, we'll reach out to both of you to discuss the Rancho Potrero Community Equestrian Center. So I just want to leave you with, and I don't know if the email got to you or whatever, but that was from 3 or 4 weeks ago. This board authorized staff to work with the city to transition the Rancho Potrero Community Equestrian Center out of city ownership and for-profit managed equestrian center to be replaced by a nonprofit community serving equestrian center that is Ride On. CRPD has been connected with Ride On for 20 years now at the Walnut Grove Equestrian Center. We're very familiar with Mr. McQueenie and his operation. They're top-notch, first-rate. He teaches at CLU programs on how to be a really great nonprofit. He's super well respected. So any hint that Mr. McQueenie is doing anything other than operating a community-based, community-serving operation is completely inaccurate. This board gives the staff lots of room and discretion to try to make better improvements for the community and the recreation world. When we did do that transition with the city is putting a lot of the money into this transition. It was to actually bring the equestrian center up to what it had been approved for at the beginning, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Because frankly, the for-profit operator did a whole lot of stuff that wasn't permitted and wasn't allowed, and a lot of the construction was never permitted. So we're trying to repair and fix a lot of stuff that was not done correctly. We have lights at the equestrian arena at Walnut Grove Equestrian. We have lights at the Canal Creek West Equestrian Center. It's not unfamiliar or foreign to us. The board gave us discretion to try to get the improvements going. So Mr. Hare, to get way ahead of an actual development permit application process, said, hey, we have an idea. We think we want to do these lights. What do you think? Come out and meet us. So that is, we were before the starting line of when we actually seek a permit. We want to meet with our ad hoc committee to talk about ideas and alternatives that we've heard from many of you. And so before we meet with Dave and Mark, that they've represented to us that they are representing you and will speak on behalf of the entire community out there. We're prepared to meet with them, talk about this stuff, but our board members need to have some information, which they have zero now because staff, we have not given that to them. And we're going to meet with them tomorrow, which Mr. Jones, you're aware of that. We're going to meet with them tomorrow so we can talk about many of the alternatives we've heard of. We've heard about covered arenas. We've heard about lower lights. We've heard about no lights. We've heard all sorts of different suggestions, but we can't just go into a meeting without having any understanding of what those alternatives might mean, physically, financially, permit wise, that kind of stuff. So we've been talking internally with staff at the staff level. Our board member hasn't heard a thing. Our ad hoc committee members will be meeting with staff tomorrow to get a briefing from us on what we've learned and what we've discovered doing a little research. And then we are going to actually reach out to Mr. Jones and Mr. Dave as representatives of all of you. And we are going to try to start a conversation about whether and how we would start, the possibility of lighting. So I just want you to be assured that in my experience, each and every one of the staff, each and every one of the board, I know myself, I can speak for that. We wake up in the morning to try to figure out how to make better recreational improvements for the entire community. This is one of over 60 facilities that we have. So we're very interested in this becoming better than it has been. And when I say better, I mean like maybe meets the actual building and safety codes and is a safe and usable facility. So I think what is a little frustrating is that the lack of responding to a lot of the different emails and stuff out there, whatever that void is, people are putting really scary stuff in their heads that hasn't come from us. So I would say, look at the CRPD website. We put everything that we've talked about on our website. And if you're getting info that isn't from our website, it's not from us. Somebody else is putting that out there. So I just want you to be assured of that. We're going to talk to Mr. Jones. We're going to talk to Mr. Hetwer, but not until after we actually have a chance to meet with our board. And I say that in the most sincere goodwill, because frankly, I care deeply about all the residents of Thousand Oaks. I was an attorney and had to fight the Sierra Club on track 4831 and FER 148 in order for that community to actually get built. I wrote the brief to the Supreme Court to say this community, track 4831, which is Hacienda Estancia of Rarazon, should get built. So I understand your community. I'm familiar with it. I know the development issues out there. I was there when Bully had to move across the street. I understand the history. And I know this board does too. And we definitely want to work with you guys. You guys are our neighbors and we value our neighbors. I guess, so with that, I'll be quiet. I probably said way more than I should have, and I apologize.
Madam Chair, if I could say just a few words. Since I've received about 60 or 80 emails from your community, I feel like I know you all very personally now, but thank you. I guess large part of that because of Mr. Jones, who's passing on information. I thank you, Mr. Friedel, for outlining. I was going to share some of that information as well, because I too have lived in the community for a long time. For me, it's been 38 years. And I know I've been exceeded by that by a couple people here on our board. So we also are long-term members And along with Mr. Friedel, back in the day, I used to be a city planner for the city of Thousand Oaks when we were considering developing Dos Vientos Ranch. And so I was out there, I was doing the open space planning. And so I was trekking across Dos Vientos Ranch when it was actually the ranch. So I saw it all with including the old barn and everything. So I know what it was like beforehand and afterwards. So I have some history there as well. But because of these emails, I found it very interesting how the legs have grown on this supposed project. I'm thinking, well, where did this come from? You know, speakers, expansions, rodeos. Where's all this coming from? Because it's not coming from us. So it's just like when you play that game of telephone, one person adds another thing, another thing, another thing, and it's all of a sudden it's this big when it's not that big. And I think I also want to commend staff for actually taking the effort to go out there and having some community meetings beforehand, because that's the CRPD way of doing business, is what, just like we've done with the Canal Community Center. Said, hey, we got an idea. We think we need to redo the Canal Community Center. Let's have some meetings there at the community center and invite the public, just get some input before we, kind of create this thing. Let's just get some input and see how it goes and kind of pull things together. This is a proven model that the Park District has done time and time again, and no different from this project. They had an idea, hey, let's have a couple meetings out there, tell people what we kind of have in mind and get some input, and then we'll pull all that back in the pot. We'll stir it all up and kind of see if we can make this a little bit better. And they're still doing that. Nothing has come to the board. This isn't even really a defined project yet. It's just, it was an idea. They had an idea. So they're trying to put some things together. But I think with that idea and the opposition, obviously, this thing has grown to a monster that it's not from the Park District. It's well beyond that. People just added information. I don't know who it is, but it's not there. But we've been trying to be very, very transparent, but we can't be transparent on things that don't exist. So it's kind of hard to share the information. So we're continuing to follow that process. We have a variety of ad hoc committees for different things, finance, you name it, we got, and they just try to send things to us to give us a little bit of input. We can't speak for the board. We just kind of give them some input from the board. That's what we're hoping to do. We're continuing to gather information. I think that's what from the emails that I received, I forward things to the staff and say, hey, maybe this is something else you can look at. Maybe this is, is this right? Is this wrong? And staff have continued to look into that information. Oh, and by the way, to address your question, Mr. Jones, as to why I wasn't introduced at the meeting, I asked that of Mr. Hare also, and he said, I don't like to introduce the board members because that changes the way the meeting is taken care of. People realize there's a board meeting, a board member there, all of a sudden, all the attention goes to the board member, and now the whole meeting is lost. So that's why I tried to kind of hide off into that dark, foggy night and not do that. I've done that to a couple of meetings too, where I just, whether it's a playground or whatever, it is just going to hide off into the distance. The other thing I want to mention that this project doesn't include is a time frame. No hurry whatsoever. There's no urgency in this project whatsoever. It's just an idea. And just with all of our ideas, it takes planning, it takes community input, and it takes money. And so we're trying to pull all those things together. We're following a standard process that we always do. There's no hidden agenda. I have no money to gain from this project, as one individual seemed to indicate, or other board members. Nothing whatsoever. This is all still very much in its infancy as far as what it is or could be. And so that's the whole idea, is to gather that information. Obviously, you folks are next door neighbors. We have a whole community served, but obviously this is in your front porch, depending on how you look at it, or your backyard. So we're very interested in that. And that's what we try to do, target our next door neighbors, get the input, put that in the mix, and try to make a better project out of it. So we'll look forward to doing that. We do have an ad hoc committee meeting tomorrow. I'm looking to learn more about the project because I don't know too much. This is not an interaction. I'm sorry. I'm just really stepping beyond what I should be. But I just want, while we had a group of people here, I just wanted to make sure that all of you heard it from me, what I've been experiencing, because it's gone way beyond what we'd expect. Now, I would like to say thank you for being here, and thank you for sending me those 60 or 80 emails, because that helps us do a better job as board members and also staff, and also in refining the project. So don't ever stop sending emails. I've tried to respond to most of them personally. A number of them I've had to seek help from staff. But I think it's important that you do interact with the board members and pass along the information. I know staff does a very good job on their day-to-day efforts to make things happen. But again, continue to provide input. But as this project actually gets designed with your input, we'll pass that information. In the meantime, as Mr. Friedel said, whatever's on the website is what it is. If you don't see it there, then it's not included. And we'll continue to refine that. But thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate it. Like I said, this is not an interactive process. Normally we don't even speak to these items, but I wanted to take the opportunity since you all were here. You all took your time to be here. I want to thank you for that. And we'll continue to interact with you as the process unfolds and as we have something more to share. It'll be shared. But like I said, don't feel like you haven't been told anything and lo and behold, it's going to show up because we're in no hurry. You know, we want to make sure we do this right. And we'll pass information along as it's unfolded. I'm sorry, one more thing. The definition of a minor modification, talk to the city planning department. That's their term, not ours. Okay, so please don't put that on our shoulders. You can talk to them and it's actually an official planning term that they use. So if you want to, duke it out with them, be my guest. Thank you, Madam Chair, for that opportunity.
Mr. Lang, Director Lang is also on the ad hoc committee for this project, so he would like to say a few words also.
Yes, and I'm going to start off with thanking each of you for being here. I talked about years ago, I'm going on 60 years here in Thousand Oaks. And a little history, I'm the chairman of the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority. I'm on the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. Almost 30 years ago, MRCA got that property, or it would have been developed. So you can thank the MRCA who purchased that property. Well, I mean, we're all in this community together to make this a better place. And I'm not going to go into any details because again, this is not the time and place as far as listening to public comments. We normally don't say a word, but as a member of that ad hoc committee and as a member of the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority that got that property in the first place, I felt I wanted to share with you that we're as much as you wanting this to be the best it can be. We don't know. Maybe it is a place without life. Maybe it is with different types of life. We don't know. And it's been said, we've not gotten any information. We get more information and it's misinformation often in emails. I've not gotten, as many as Director Nichols. I've gotten my share and I've tried to respond, based on my schedule, but just know that this is our community too. As I mentioned, I've lived out here, since the early 60s. So, there was 2 traffic lights in Thousand Oaks at the time, 3. One at Jansen Moore Park, one at Thousand Oaks Boulevard, which still had Ventura Boulevard on the street signs, and then one at Herbs and Thousand Oaks Boulevard because of the fire station. So I've seen a lot of changes myself, and I won't go into it, but just know that we want this to be the best. I was involved with some of the early Alex Fiore and other planning for our community. So that's why we don't have homes on tops of hills for the most part and so forth. We put a lot of time and effort and love into this community. So please understand, we're not as far along as someone in your group has indicated. We got a long ways to go yet. So again, thank you for being here. And we hope that together we will come up with the best solution to this and Dave and Mark, thank you. We're going to work on it for you. They say they represent you and we'll take them at their word. So together we're going to come up with the best solution to a situation that has been warranted by the need for improving that equestrian center. So Thank you very much and God bless.
So thank you for your comments. And again, for all three of you, and I'd just like to reiterate also that, again, this isn't anything we've made any decisions on. This isn't anything that we are planning to make any quick decisions on. Most of you had far more ideas than we've ever thought of, that I had never heard of. That's why I kind of commented for a minute thinking, where's this coming from? So again, we're listening to you. We're going to work with you. You will be contacted. Please don't be afraid. Okay. I felt your passion. Don't be afraid. This will be something that will be good for your community, for our entire community. Okay, so you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you're welcome to leave. We're going to end our public comments. There are no other comments online. Are there any other comments online? Okay, so our public comments are now ending. Thank you for coming. Okay, so moving along. Can we have an approval for the agenda? Do I have a motion?
I'll move for approval.
A second. Okay, we have Director Lang approved, Director Huffer seconded. And our consent calendar, A and B. Oh, I'm sorry, we need to take a vote on that. I'm a little riled up.
Calm down. It's okay.
From all that excitement. Okay. So, all in favor of approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Do we have a motion for the consent calendar, item A, B, item 6, A and B? Thank you, Director.
Move
Huffer.
approval of consent calendar A and B.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Do we have any deferred matters? No. Any items for discussion? Okay, so that takes us to new items, 9A. And I'm not going to read all of that. Is this Mrs. Smith?
Thank you, Chair Cusworth and directors. Good to see you all. For both items 9A and B, they're very, very similar and they're related. So I'm going to kind of discuss them together and then let Mark Schuster here also give a presentation on them together. And I'll explain the differences between the two as well. So first, I kind of want to give a brief refresher. There's a lot of details in your board report. Thank you. But I want to give a refresher on the district's retiree and post-employment liabilities that we do have. There's basically 4. 1 is the part-time pension plan. 2, the retiree stipend. 3, the OPEB medical premiums. And 4, the CalPERS unfunded accrued liabilities. So those are the 4 liabilities that the district has worked really, really hard to address over the year, and a huge credit to the board. The first thing that was tackled was trying to reduce those liabilities. So those first 3 that I mentioned, the part-time pension plan, the retiree stipend, and the OPEB medical premiums are all closed pools. So those liabilities aren't going to be growing or increasing. They're closed pools. There's no new entrance into that. So we reduced the liabilities from growing. The second thing that the board has done has set aside funding to address those liabilities. So we had a reserve policy. You all have been contributing to that reserve to address these liabilities. Then we merged the first and second liabilities that I mentioned, the part-time pension plan and the retiree stipend, into a defined benefit plan and set up a trust to address those issues. So that's one trust, and that's the 9A item, is the trust that's the retiree stipend, the part-time pension plan, and is also called retirement enhancement. So there's all these words, and I'm trying to make it really clear about what's what. The board also established a 115 trust to address the OPEB and medical liabilities. And then to top it off, you contributed to that trust an additional funding to address the CalPERS pension liability for pension stabilization. So those 4 liabilities got split into 2 different trusts. The one trust, part-time pension plan, retiree stipend, retirement enhancement, all closed pool in one trust, and that's item 9A. And then you've got the other trust, which is your OPEB medical benefits, that's a closed pool, and the pension stabilization for that ongoing CalPERS accrued liability. And that's 9B. So those are the differences between the 2 items. They're the 2 trusts that address all 4 of the retiree liabilities that the district has. And kudos to the board for really addressing this. As I've mentioned before, we're 99% funded based on our actuarial reports. And the current balances of those different amounts for the retiree enhancement, we're at 3.5 million. OPEB, we've got 6.1, and pension stabilization, we're at 10.2. So we've got about 19.8 million set aside in these 2 trusts to address those liabilities. Now that I've talked a lot about the different pots and the 2 trusts, and hopefully that all makes sense, and feel free to interrupt me if you have a question on either of that. I want to talk about who's been administering that. So we've had
Excuse
public.
me.
Oh, yeah,
Could I just ask you to restate that again? You talked about the dollars. You
sure.
said the stipend, retirement stipend was 3.5 million?
So the retirement enhancement, which includes the part-time pension plan and the retiree stipend,
So
is
it's-
at 3.5.
So that's a combination of those 2,
Yes,
3.5. And then the OPEB alone was 6.1 million?
correct.
And the pension stabilization was 10.2 million?
Yep.
And is OPEB and medical combined, or are those 2 separate?
Those are combined.
Okay, so it's OPEB and medical that's 6.1 and pension stabilization is 10.2.
Good. I
Thank you.
love saying
Okay.
numbers. So we've been having those administered by Public Agency Retirement Services, PARS. Recently, we started working with Schuster Advisory Group regarding our employees 457 plans. And I'll let them talk more about how they did there, but we were very happy with their performance and the level of service we received. So we asked them to look at these trusts. We wanted to compare what they could provide for those trusts with PARS. And we also looked at the CalPERS alternative, also known as CalTrust, and they use some other acronyms that are in your packet that we looked at. And so we met with the Finance and Audit Committee, Director Holt and Director Huffer. We had Mr. Schuster come and give a presentation to them as well and discuss these options. And so after all of that, we're here today with our recommendation to change from PARS to Schuster Advisory Group for the administration of these 2 trusts to address all 4 of our liabilities. And we invited them to come and share some information about themselves and what this means for the district. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Mark.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you all. Hopefully this portion of the meeting will be a really simple and easy one. We'll have some numbers here. We did meet with the Finance Committee previously and went through everything that Melissa has just addressed. So from our perspective, when we take over pots of money, as mentioned, many of the actuarial calculations, they've all been done for you. So when it comes down to the money, it's no different than your own retirement plans that you have, IRAs, investment accounts. It comes down to you want low fees, you want the best mutual funds out there, and you want high interest rates if in fact you have cash available to you. So what we've been doing over the last 8 years, and I'm going to share with you some information here that I think will be very helpful to you. There we go. Okay. Quickly, I'm just going to give you a little background on our firm. We are a firm, independent registered investment advisory firm. We do act as a fiduciary to all of our clients, and that's critically important. That represents less than 1% of all financial advisors in the country that act as fiduciaries, a very different distinction versus a financial advisor, a consultant, et cetera. A little background, I'm going to show you just some who our clientele were before we came to the government agency. Privately held, publicly held hospitals. We've been working with these institutions for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And then about 8-10 years ago, after managing the money for the presidents of Prudential, John Hancock, their personal money, they let us know how much money they were making from the government agency space and how profitable that area was. So we dove into this space headfirst. And today we have over 70 agencies that we've come in and stripped out over $5 billion of fees out of their retirement plans. Yes, $5 billion of fees. And in fact, here at CRPD and Mountain, we reduced their fees in the 457 plan by over 80%, which has a very long-term impact. And anybody that's in finance, if you've ever compounded just 0.25% over a long period of time, it turns out to be millions and millions of dollars. And so we've been doing that throughout Southern California, Northern California, Central, and now we're going around the country doing it. And it's spreading quite wide. As just 2 weeks ago, I was at the city managers meeting, and within about 20 minutes, 10 city managers said, hire this firm, and 10 new cities hired us to do this type of work. So this is spreading wide, and most importantly, it impacts dramatically what you have to set aside for your future liability. Because that's basically what Melissa talked about, is funding future liabilities through an OPEB plan or a defined benefit plan. So this was the impact we made on the 457B plan, just simply lowering fees and increasing the investment returns in the portfolio. What we did in the industry was a little different. PARS today really uses US Bank. And so it's a bank that is managing the money today and doing the custodial services. We went to the largest custodian in the world, Schwab, and simply negotiated 1 basis point to be implemented, and then pass that along to all of the agencies rather than put a profit on top of it. So we've just passed these negotiated fees, and the fees matter, and they really have a dramatic impact that you'll see in a few minutes. Some of the areas, I'm going to just get right to some numbers here. I think you understand. I want to show you some dollars here. On the 457B, we reduced the plan by 53%. And then on the 115 and the defined benefit plans, the plans that Melissa just went over with you, a 51% reduction and a 68% reduction in fees. And really at the end of the day, and I think you're all, and I've heard somebody up here who was explaining, I think 60 years helping out public agencies. The reality is there aren't a lot of firms like ours that get into government space for a variety of reasons. And so there's just a handful of players in the past, and that's who all agencies dealt with, and they just weren't terribly competitive. Large firms like ours just did not want to get into government space, sometimes because they don't want to come at 7 o'clock at night. They'd rather be golfing someplace and speak to counsel, and that's the reality. We found it as an incredible opportunity as we kind of had some moles inside these big institutions and found out that this was every city and every county in the country, not just here in Southern California. So these savings have an impact. So this is just simple fee savings. And I want you to look at the green. Over a 30-year period, which is oftentimes how these plans are planned out, it has a $3.3 million impact to the participants of the 457, a $6 million impact on the OPEB and 115, and in the defined benefit plan, a $4.8 million impact. That is simply fee alone. That has nothing to do with better investments, more active investments, or professional money management at a different level, because you cannot guarantee future rates of return. We don't know what they will be. Obviously, managing, and I give you another handout in a second for all of you to take home, but this is simply the impact that Melissa and Jim have put into effect by just reducing these fees inside these plans. The next slide here is simply looking at, and this affects everybody, all of your own personal accounts. If you earn just 0.25% higher in a rate of return due to professional money management at a different level, you can look at 7.8, 12 million, and $6 million impact, let alone a 0.5% rate of return across the board. So these are areas that we are wanting to bring to CRPD to, again, reduce your funding in the future, reduce your liability in the future, and in the 457 plan, which we've already implemented. Really, it means your employees will have more money in their pockets at the end of the day. Again, these were just showing what it was, your current 49 basis points versus 24. So we cut the fees by over 50% to the administration, which again allows for less funding or more money building up. And this was the defined benefit plan where it was far more dramatic, a total cost of 2.05% versus 85 basis points. And then this was just rates of return over the last 1, 3, 5, and 10 years on both a 50% equity, 50% fixed income model based upon performance that has been achieved. And we have a little bit more of an active management than a passive management. And when I say passive, meaning not passive index funds, but it could simply meaning managing passive index funds versus just leaving accounts dormant over the years. The last thing I'm going to want to have you all look at here, and this is something that I've handed out to all of you, not just for this purpose, but for your own purpose. We've obviously seen the last 12 years of unprecedented rates of return in the market since the 08, 09 Great Recession.
Excuse me, Mark, just in case someone's listening at home, if you could, I know you love to wander.
Thank you, Chuck.
Step by the mic.
Thank you.
Thanks.
These projections, two of the largest firms in the world put out these 30-year projections that many institutions use for their future funding, whether it be a CalPERS, defined benefit plans. It's 30-year projections on markets. And of course, in the last 3 years, we've seen unprecedented growth ending in December due to almost $5 trillion pushed into the economy. These are projections moving forward by BlackRock. In this example, one of the largest, if not the largest money manager in the world. And I think it would be helpful for all of you to look at it again, not only for CRPD and the different institutions, but it's dramatically different than what we've seen in the last 20 years. And that's due to the drop of interest rates and then this short-term rise in interest rates. And over the next 5 to 10 years, it's projected that quality bonds could be negative for the next 10 years in total return, not income, but total return. And this, of course, has an impact on everybody's portfolio. So we thought you might find this of interest. We are obviously going to be managing around this so that we do achieve the types of rates of return that you're looking for. Your portfolios today are conservative. They're very balanced right now, but we'll be looking at these going forward. Any questions? Yes.
Does anybody else have any questions before I speak?
Go ahead, I'll wait to hear from you. I do, but I want to hear from you first.
Oh, well, I don't know. Mine might not be that intelligent because I'm not on the financial committee. There's probably a reason. But I assume you're a for-profit agency. So how can you charge so much, less fees? Why are your fees so much less than everyone else's? And you're able to stay in business? Like what?
I've been in this industry a very long time and for many years felt that financial services companies and financial advisors were being overpaid. So about 20 years ago, we started reducing fees by 10, 20, and 30%, capping fees. And it's worked out wonderfully for our firm. And the names you saw up there, and some of them are quite familiar to you, worked for Mr. Crusoe for 24 years now. And you get hired because you deliver certain to their expectations, and obviously fees matter. And we're able to be profitable, and oftentimes people just want to be more profitable. So we've been able to maintain that. We have a little different purist mentality, but having worked and been on boards of banks have high margins, and the U.S. Trust is who's managing, and they're no different than Wells Fargo or B of A. They've got very high margins. They're publicly held companies. We're a privately held company, but we're able to manage just fine, charging the fees we charge.
Okay, thank you. Rick Nichols.
Thank you. Thank you for the explanation. I just need to preface this, but I do have 28 years experience as a ICMA RC, now Mission Square participant, yes. And I've also had some discussions with my prior employer with PARs. So I'm familiar with those. and I'm way too familiar with OPEB than I want to admit. But just want to get that out there. Now, my understanding is Mission Square is a nonprofit organization.
Correct.
Is that correct? So you as a for-profit organization are undercutting a nonprofit organization in fees.
We didn't undercut it. We kept Mission Square. We just made them reduce their fees.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. So so it's just a matter of arm twisting then.
It's about negotiations.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
it's another way to phrase it. Okay. Okay,
Well done.
so with that, is the fee savings just for the agency or also for the individual participants?
Great question. The 457 is participant money. So you as a participant inside a plan, those were your dollars that were being charged out of the plan. For the 115 OPEB and defined benefit, those are CRPD dollars.
Okay, and so it's, just use this, maybe the $10.2 million that Ms. Smith was talking about in pension stabilization. So with that, that bucket, then fees were coming out of that $10.2 million as time was marching on. So now it's just less fees coming out so the capital can increase more over time. Is that correct?
Correct.
It's like, I'm not on the finance committee. I learned some of these things.
That
from
was
Mr. Huffer.
right on.
Director Huffer. Okay. All right. So I understand that part. Understand the fees now. Oh, you also mentioned, I think I heard you mention bonds and mutual funds. Are those the two primary instruments that you use, bonds and mutual funds? Or is that just what's currently there and you're going to explore options?
You currently have bond funds, mutual funds, which are the same as bond mutual funds. You can also have equity stock mutual funds. You also can have exchange traded funds. It's a different type. I won't go too deep, a version of a mutual fund. There are opportunities going forward for other type of funds, including public and private securities such as real estate debt. Of course, CalPERS, which you're very familiar with, is heavily invested in private equity and private debt as our large endowments. Those are available, whether or not they're suitable for your organization. That's something different, but they are available to the CRPD if in fact you chose, and we had recommended to go down that path.
Okay. And the other thing that I wanted to clarify is I know as a public agency, we're held to some pretty high standards to make sure that we have some very conservative investments, but I understand in this realm, there is a little more flexibility. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, you have your own investment policy statement. In fact, every agency creates an investment policy statement for a particular investment. And so we draft an investment policy statement. The board approves the investment policy statement. You have one now. And within the investment policy statement, you then typically drive towards a rate of return, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%. You often see this with CalPERS. Within that, we then put the appropriate assets, including liquid or illiquid assets, depending upon the IPS, inside the investment portfolio. So that is drafted and typically working not only with, in this case, Melissa and Jim and/or the finance committee to come up with the final allocation of stocks versus bonds versus other fixed instruments.
Okay. And then as I was reading through the couple of agenda items that we have here, I understand, right, there's some different players here. For example, talks about Nyhart,
Who's is a actuarial service that does calculations for the pension plan, for the defined benefit plan.
Okay, yeah, I see that under that one. And so you as a fiduciary and administrator are just kind of overseeing all this? Is that
Yeah,
how you
we're
see your main
managing
role?
all of the process on behalf of CRPD. Our role is the investment fiduciary. So there is very distinct what the SEC and the DOL consider a fiduciary. So there are investment pieces to this that we are building the investment portfolio. We are trading it. We are working in this case with this custodian is Schwab. And we are directing the investments based upon the investment policy statement. We are then coordinating between CRPD, between the NIHART, between Alta Trust, between Schwab, making sure all the moving pieces are going smoothly.
Okay, and then as part of that role, are you in contact with Ms. Smith again and making suggestions, recommendations, or planning ahead? Hey, this is what we might suggest, for your consideration. And then that gets passed along. How are those, how's that information passed along and how are those decisions made?
So on an ongoing basis, which I think both Melissa and Jim have already experienced, our team, and we have a large organization that communicate. We typically meet on a quarterly or semi-annual basis. Sometimes it's different when you have a large market considerations, such as what happened in March of 2020. We are reaching out to our clients to discuss something in the event that there are some severe market movements like there were back then, and just oftentimes to calm people down when you've seen some volatility like we've seen just in the last 6 weeks after January 1st. So we're in a constant communication. We are constantly going over the portfolio, the fees. The Department of Labor wants all your fees to be transparent. In the perfect world, they want everybody to see every single fee, every single investment, to have it in a consolidated manner. So we are doing that on a consistent basis throughout the course of the year. In the event we want to make a recommendation, or we are suggesting to them we're going to make a transition from, example, large cap growth to the S&P, we have already had that built into the S&P, but we are managing to, in this case, a 50-50 model. Thank you, Chuck. Give me a nod over there. I thought he was a third base coach there for a second. We are modeling our investments to the investment policy statement. In the event we believe that you cannot achieve it or are taking too much risk, we will go to the committee and make a recommendation. You may want to move to a 60-40 or a 40-60 in light of markets changing, such as what we've seen here in the last year to 2 years, and in particular in the last 4 to 5 months with interest rates rising and what is happening in the bond world right now.
Thank you for the education. This is, I try to glean what I can from professionals whenever I get the opportunity, but thank you for the explanation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Does anybody else have a comment?
I'm just going to say kind of an internal thing. I want to thank our finance committee, Susan and Chuck, and how well they work on this in conjunction with Melissa and so forth. So I'm very, very confident all the information and all the aspects of this investment and trust and so forth is in good hands. So thank you for your efforts in explaining.
Welcome, and it was great having both Susan and Chuck with experience in these matters. When we met previously, it was very helpful.
Yeah, agree.
I have a question for Melissa. How did you find out about this company?
MRC.
So actually, I think Jim got a recommendation and we started with the 457s, and the employees actually met with Schuster and his group to talk about the 457s. And we were very impressed with not only their performance, but the level of service that we've gotten from them has been extraordinary and beyond anything I've gotten on from the other providers. So.
And how long have you had this association?
Oh, less than a year now.
Okay.
And so they performed within 6 months. We already got all those returns they talked about. So
Through MRCA.
MRCA did it as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you
Thank
for
you very
coming. It
much.
looks like we're in very good hands. I wish you did extremely low budget things like my investments, which based on your fees, I don't think you'd make any money at all.
Well, but please look at this chart. I know Chuck is quite familiar with all of this, but it'll be really interesting times here in the next 6 months in particular on which way the Fed goes, and it'll have a dramatic effect on all of our portfolios, regardless of what you're invested in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank Mark for your time and for giving us the Cliff Notes version tonight. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Next time I'll stay in front of the microphone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess we would like to, recommendation to adopt this resolution. So we would like to make a recommendation to adopt this resolution.
You have to read the
Yes, we'll have to.
the resolution.
Yes.
No, Susan.
I'm fine, fine. I thought we were going to have,
Not yet. That,
okay, read the whole thing. Well, this is the next.
okay, I'll do it.
Okay.
I'd like to recommend that we adopt resolution number 021722-A, that it be in reference to the enhanced trust and that it be read in title only and all further readings be waived.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. I just want to know, should we also ask the maker of the motion to include items 2
1, 2,
and 3? on that?
1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if you go ahead and do that.
I keep forgetting to turn this on. And would you please read that for us?
Resolution number 021722-A, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Conejo Recreation and Park District approving the adoption of the defined benefit plan platform proposed by Schuster Advisory Group, LLC.
Okay, all approved?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. And I think we need to move on to 9B. So do we have somebody that would like to recommend 1, 2, and 3 to adopt this resolution?
Probably need to stop staff report.
Oh, we need another staff report for this. That was so much. I thought you covered both of them.
It was all covered there.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought, but would you like to say anything else, Mrs.
For
Smith?
official.
No, I have nothing else to add. Yeah, this is the second trust. And so we had one item for one trust and another item for the other trust. And that's how it's split up.
Okay, that's how I understood it. So thank you. All right, so now that that's been clarified, do we have a recommendation to adopt this resolution and 1, 2, and 3? Okay,
I move that we adopt resolution number 021722-B. It's a long thing. You want me to read the whole?
I think that's okay, that just that it be read in title only.
Okay, that'd be read in title only and all
Further reading.
further readings be waived.
Okay,
Plus recommendations 2 and 3.
yes,
1, 2, and
1, 2, and 3,
Including
Well,
recommendations 1, 2, and 3.
right. Okay, so I did say that, but I guess she needs to say it also. Right, I'm gonna get that clarified, so I get this right every time.
It
for
says
the
it
rest
up
of the
here.
year. All right, so we'll have that and I'll make sure that gets done. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Director Nichols. Could that be read, please?
Resolution number 021722-B, resolution of the Board of Directors of the Conejo Recreation and Park District approving the adoption of the multiple employer OPEB pension 115 trust administered by Schuster Advisory Group, LLC.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for coming.
All of these 1, 2, 3 recommendations were included up here.
I thought they were, but we're just being safe, I guess. Okay, so we're gonna get it right. So we have now going to number 10, reports and announcements. Are there any questions over any of our reports or announcements? I think I had one here that I had. Now I can't find it. Oh, if no one else has anything, I have a comment. All right, I just wanted to comment on, thank you for the unplug again. I'm glad that this is continuing on. I think, how many years has this been, you've been doing this now?
I think we started it in 2020 and it happened right before COVID happened. It was like the weekend before COVID shut everything down. So,
Okay.
and then we did do it in 2021, a very light version of it. And so we're excited to have all these fun things going back on again.
And I think everybody's getting ready to unplug. I mean, I think we've all been plugged in for so long. So, so thank you for putting that. I always appreciate all of the wonderful things that you do. And I noticed this Art and Crafts Festival at Borchard. I think this was one of the first events that I ever attended back when I was first elected. So I saw that and I go, oh, I remember that. I went with my son. So it's always wonderful to see these. Thank you so much. Any other comments? Okay, we'll go to our department reports. And Parks Division, Mr. Hare, we haven't heard anything from you today. And usually
Yes.
we hear a lot from you.
I was taking it all in. Yeah, thanks, Chair Custer, members of the board. Just one thing, we do have the Lang Ranch Neighborhood Park ribbon cutting for the playground on Saturday, the 26th at 9 a.m. Nelly, unfortunately, we're finishing up the script. I know I usually give you a hard copy at the meeting prior, but I don't have it ready for you. So.
But remember, on the 26th, I will not be there.
Oh, that's right. I apologize. Yeah, that's okay. And Sue,
Director
I don't
Holt said
have
that
my.
she would take over for me.
Yes, that is correct. I was gonna say. Okay. Right. Sue's gonna be ready for it. I will email you the script
Okay,
ahead of time.
it's fine.
Thank
I
you.
wasn't asked, but you know,
No, last meeting. Last meeting you agreed. You said you were gonna leave.
Yeah,
lead band.
yeah. It's a small quartet.
That's okay, I can do that.
Yeah, the small quartet.
Done that a lot.
Mostly brass. So it'll
Sing all four parts too.
Probably,
yeah,
yeah.
it'll be good. But I'm available for questions.
Okay, thank you. And Recreation Division, Mrs. Callis.
Thank you, Chair Cusworth, and members of the board. Just a reminder, on February 25th, there will be snow at the Thousand Oaks Community Center. So go see a movie, bring the little ones, the grandkids, whatever. Make sure you get your tickets because there will be snow and sledding. So unfortunately, the movie had been canceled a couple of times due to weather because the screen is so big. So we're really hoping there will be no wind on the 25th. So other things, we had our sports department worked with the ASA, the Americans Supporting Americans, and they had a fundraiser and it was fantastic. And sports department wanted me to share with the board that they received this plaque as a thank you. The ASA actually made $2,678 just on the tournament. They also had auctions, food sales, and other donations. The whole event for pickleball, sorry, I don't think I said that. This was a pickleball tournament. They made approximately $5,000. They try to raise usually about $10,000 a year, and this goes to paying for postage for the packages that they send to our folks out in the field.
Military.
The military out in the field. And so they've had a hard time over the last couple of years raising funds. And so this pickleball tournament really helped them out this year. So they were super appreciative and thankful. We had a safe passage sign up with our aquatics department. We've partnered with Safe Passage and Aquatics. They had a sign up for swimming lessons and they got about 40 kids that signed up for the swimming lessons. So in our spring, we're going to have a little trial run, and in the summer, we're going to do another swim lesson also. Tim has finalized the concert series, so you're the first to hear. We are going to be having a John Denver tribute, a George Strait tribute, a Rod Stewart tribute, a Everly Brothers tribute, and a Van Halen tribute. Still looking for some sponsorships that are available, so he's working on that, but we're super excited to have that all nailed down.
Those are some good names too.
For the summer. So, and looks like we will have no rules or regulations to follow at this point.
Yeah, right.
And then I think in your package, you got the barn sale for McCray Ranch. So now's the time to clean out the house and get rid of stuff that might be treasures for someone else, and or go
I
find
don't
more
have
stuff
it.
for your house, one or the other. So with that, I'm
Can I take
available
my stuff?
for any questions.
I don't have that flyer. What, should-
In your board packet,
I didn't see it.
Dias packet.
I know. Yeah, I know. I'm looking. What, that's okay. I'll look. Thanks. Yeah, I didn't get one. Yes, I did.
Any other questions?
Any questions? Yes.
Yes,
I did go through it.
you read off the titles. Was Memorial Day of John Denver?
Memorial Day is going to be. Yep,
Okay,
yes, sir.
I'm working on the flyover, so I want to give them as much information as I can.
Yeah, we appreciate that again. On behalf.
Okay, any other questions? No, then we'll move on to Mrs. Smith for our Managerial Services Division report.
So I'll keep it brief. I did want to thank Director Holton Huffer for working with us with Schuster and all of that. It's a lot of numbers and work, so I appreciate your efforts and thank you, board, for tolerating my love of numbers. And then for Director Lang, you're going to see something very similar on the MRCA agenda. So just a heads up, I like when both entities can have the same provider. So, and with that, I'm available for any questions.
That's a good job. I mean, it's good for us, the financial outlook.
You guys did a good job too, you and Chuck.
I think Melissa did it.
Okay, let's move on. General Manager's report.
Yes, thank you, Chair Cusworth, members of the board. I probably got a little too enthusiastic after public comments. I apologize if
No,
anyone
you
was
did
not
well.
expecting
No,
that,
you
but
did very well.
You did very well.
it just came out. A couple of things that are really exciting. The Rolling Oaks, there's a placeholder name. It's not the official name or anything, but since it's at the dead end of Rolling Oaks, we're calling it Rolling Oaks Neighborhood Park for now. And Tom's already got it. Good government speak. Its acronym is RON. So Ron, he like starts talking like it's our buddy Ron, which is great. And so if you close your eyes and think park, the average citizen thinks of anything from completely natural open space that no one touches to Disneyland. That's what I've learned. And so the Rolling Oaks community is very interested in what we mean by park. So we've already been invited by the HOA president to come talk to their group on 2/24, February 24th at 5 p.m. So Tom and Andrew are going to go and bring the map, the concept of a very low intensity neighborhood park on a limited piece of the property to show the neighbors, if the board is so, okay with that. But our idea was to say, no, this is what a low intensity neighborhood park looks like. And it's a couple trails, a little patch of grass, a playground, and maybe a sport court. It's kind of what we're the starting point of a discussion. So we're looking forward to that. And it should be actually a lot of fun because there's a ton of people really excited too. There is tomorrow morning, the ad hoc, as you all know, the ad hoc Rancho Petro Committee of Lang and Nichols will be meeting with staff, and we'll have some ideas and options and some different things, and maybe even some dollars associated with different options just for chewing on. But after we talk, I will call Dave and Mark Jones and just let them know when maybe we can all get together. And as a reminder, it's on your calendar, but 2/23, February 23rd is the Reign of Terror check presentation again, which is always great. And it's great to show support for Bruce because of how hard he works and writes us a check, and
That's
it's
right,
really
yeah.
neat. And then I know that you got the email on the possibility of a field trip on the 19th, but it looks like the 17th, our normal board meeting date works, but we're hoping that it works at 4, because Saturday didn't work for some of you, a couple of you. So we're
Oh, that's
hoping
too bad.
March 17th, the normal board meeting date, but if we leave at 4, because it will have been daylight savings time like on the 13th, we should be able to have light all the way until 7, and we think 3 hours would be plenty.
You
to
know
go see
that's
what we
St.
wanna see.
Patrick's Day.
So that's okay.
Yeah, I did.
I got all excited because that's my brother's birthday.
Oh.
Oh, I don't have a board meeting. Oh.
I see a theme coming with the field trip. But yeah, no, the idea was to do some cool, see some cool stuff while it's actually still like opened up and torn apart for construction, because there are some pretty cool projects like in the middle of the project stage, and it'll be kind of neat to see that. And so we want to take you by some of those, and also go visit Ron. So
Will
other places.
this be only a field trip and not a meeting to follow then? Is that
Yeah,
the
no, our
idea?
idea would just be a field trip.
Gotcha.
Because actually, I will tell you know how we agenda manage the workflow and stuff, and based on the workflow, we had super light agenda. So we're like, let's do something cool and fun and go see some stuff. So that's the idea.
So how long will that be then?
We're thinking 4 to 7. We want to be done by dark. So
Do we bring our own dinner?
we'll bring you green things. We'll have something green. Corned beef and cabbage.
Oh, that's good.
And that's it for me. I'm available for any other questions.
So, anyone have any questions? Director Hubbard?
Just a couple of comments. I wanted to thank Jim. He dropped everything and said, yes, he could show up and do his dog and pony show for Qantas meeting on Wednesday. And then he said, ooh, maybe I better check with the boss first, but turned out his calendar was clear. So did a real nice job with that. And then this morning I was driving over to Canal Creek South and happened to have KCLU on. And who did I hear but Jim again? He was being interviewed about the Rolling Oaks Park, which was very, very well done interview. So
Yes.
I have a question for Tom. One of the things that on the last meeting, you said you called or said that it was canceled. Is that the Lang Ranch Neighborhood Park?
Yeah, I think, last meeting, we were, I believe, so it's February 3rd. I think we were planning on, no, that was the Triunfo one, sorry. That was we were going to have Triunfo on February 5th.
Which we did.
Yeah,
We had
I don't
Triumph.
remember.
We had Triumphant Playground.
Was that on the 5th? Well, I'm trying to think what we canceled, but maybe.
Yeah, and I wrote canceled
I think we might have just,
The
I think
last
maybe, like Rochelle's younger than I am, so we probably had, we said we talked about the 12th, and maybe I canceled it for the 12th and moved it. We didn't do the 19th.
It was
We didn't do the
originally-
19th because of the 3-day weekend, sometimes 4-day weekend. So we moved it to the 26th, so we just postponed it to the 26th.
Okay, because even 2 weeks ago, it was on the 26th.
Correct, and I'm just reminding you again tonight.
Oh, okay.
That's
So
all-
what was canceled then?
Well, I don't see anything.
The
I think we
original
just postponed it a week.
Yeah.
No, it's the same, and that's.
Oh,
what's
from not last week, but like
from a while back.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Who knows? Next thing is the 26th.
Okay, the 26th, as
You
long
be
as
there,
it's
I'd
still there.
You be
it-
there,
it's-
I'd be there.
Huh?
You be there, I'd be there.
Okay.
Okay. So, any other? Where are we? Let's see, we're general managers report. Does anybody else have a comment for the general manager? All righty, so I have a suggestion for Ron. I think that would be a good place for us to put the blimp.
Yeah.
So you might want to run that by the homeowners when you talk to them.
I don't think there's. I actually told them it was a helicopter landing pad, so
Oh, okay, we've switched. All
I
right.
switched.
The
because it was-
helicopter might be more practical,
Yes, because of the surgical hospital being right there.
right?
Yeah.
That would be good, and then we could take it right over to Rancho Potrero.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, lots of ideas. I shouldn't have said that online. I think that's true. Okay,
Chair Kessler.
yes.
I have a quick question, Jim.
Yes, sir.
In reference to Ron, did the homeowners association initiate the contact with you, or did you guys initiate contact with them?
Actually, we had been talking to somebody that we knew was involved with the board, but the president contacted us directly. So it was a little bit of both. Like, we knew we were going to reach out and talk to him, but he was right on it. Like,
So-
I read in the paper this morning, and you know,
So it seems like we've got a good association and relationship.
well, yeah, we're about to start one. Yeah, we're about to establish it. Absolutely. I mean, you guys all know people. There's a Kiwanian that lives there. I got a person I grew up with. Our kids are friends. I mean, there's people that know people. Well, it's good.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All right, let's do our directors report, reports. Director Nichols.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I showed up a little bit late, but to the Triumphal Playground ribbon cutting. I heard that there was a ribbon cutting. I just saw you all there. Our walk took a little longer than I had expected. And then also attended the Costa board meeting since our last director's board meeting here. And then just as an FYI, I was at a neighborhood meeting, and one of the neighbors, of course, they knew I was with the park district. They said this idea of a new park came up. Because we have too many parks. What we really need is a baseball complex. But, okay, you know, we're open to ideas.
They want pickleball. Tom.
I said, yeah, pickleball seats. He goes, oh, yeah, well, I want. So then it was a matter of all these things of what. But I just found it interesting. You know, we all have these different interest groups, whether it's pickleball, equestrians, parks, playgrounds, baseball complexes. We try to do our best, and everyone has it. But what I was wondering is that when Joe Gibson was on board, why did we get a baseball complex then? You know, so now that he's gone, now they want us to put a baseball complex out. But anyhow, it was a good conversation. And so it's nice just to have those little neighborhood informal meetings where you can just talk one-on-one with people and, you know, just have a nice friendly conversation. So need to get out there and do more often. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Director
May I
Hall.
make a quick comment?
Oh, yes,
As
please.
Director Nichols wasn't on board at the time, but Sopwey Trails Community Park was going to be the baseball complex.
Director Holt.
Yes, let's see, I went to Triumphal. That may be the only thing since the last meeting. Oh. Did you hear me? I went to the Triumphal Park Playground ribbon cutting ceremony. I think in the last 2 weeks, that's probably the only thing.
Okay, thank you, Director Holt. Director Huffer.
Well, the same things. I think all this, we're eventually at the ribbon cutting at Triumphal Park. I did manage to destroy Director Cusworth in a round of, what was it?
It was the, the tossing thing. I'm not going to say destroy.
Okay, I edged past you. then,
You edged
but-
past me.
All
I
right.
don't think. we should-
Anyway.
I mean, I was on the board.
That-
I was
that's
thrown
true.
on the
Anyway, I
board.
was at the ribbon cutting. We had the Casca meeting. I guess probably the only other park-related thing I've been doing for the last 2 weeks, it's going on forever and ever, is tax preparation. We've already done somewhere in excess of 200 tax returns in the first 2 weeks. So
Wow.
It's been busy, and then while I'm there, I've been able to watch what's going on with the shade structure by the building there at Canal Creek South. And there is an addition to the calendar there on March 11th. They're going to do a ribbon cutting for the shade structure. So hoping as many board members as possible can be there for that. So that's all I had to report.
It's Friday.
Friday afternoon.
And what's happening?
Oh, ribbon cutting for the shade structure, the building at Canal Creek South.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I could add one more thing, Mr. Director Huffer reminded me at the Costco board meeting, the board approved transfer of, I think Chuck, maybe over about 1,000 acres to Costco for open space. So it was really more of a formal transaction because some of these, actually this from Dos Vientos even, that had been sitting in the city's name since 1988, I think it was, or something like this. So it was a formality, but nonetheless gradually consolidating all the open space into the Costco ownership.
Where was this parcel?
Well, it was multiple parcels.
Yeah, there were two groups of parcels, different ends of the community, but a lot, 2 or 3 big parcels, and then a lot of little parcels that were transferred over. Wasn't any new land, it just the city is gradually cleaning up the process of land that was titled to the city and title now being transferred to Costco. So.
Okay, Director Lang.
Ditto from most of the board members, the triumphal playground ribbon cutting. And that was the extent of it. Thank you.
Okay. Usually we hear about a lot of meetings. that
I
you've
know
been
they
to.
were all
You're
at the
the-
beginning and I've got one coming up next week.
Got one coming up. It was cornhole. I said the beanbag thing, but it was cornhole. So I met with our mayor, Bob Engler, as part of our board buddies. And it was very nice. And he said to me, he goes, I really, really enjoy this. So I guess it's been a couple of years that he's met, and he mentioned to me, he goes, oh, yes, Director Nichols and I would get together. And he said, I'm so glad that you do this. I'm so glad that the park is doing this. So it's just so easy. We met at Pete's Coffee, had a drink for an hour, talked personal, also about how the city and Park and Rec can get along. And of course we do, but it's just a wonderful thing to do. And I appreciate it because since I'm so new in city government, it's helping me get to know a lot of the other electeds. So, just a, renewal, reminder that we're the park people, we're fun, because that's what he said to me, but I was quoting Jim. He said, I'm so glad you started this. I go, we're parks, we're fun. And so he was happy for that. And yes, go
just about that. I mean, I met with my guy was Ed Jones. I see him every Sunday morning, but we did have a meeting.
Okay.
Also they get a new gal, and Lynn, is it? I have the information at home, but she hasn't returned my phone call or email that I know of. We've had email problems, but
well, we'll make an effort and we'll get out there. And I just think it's a wonderful program. So I think it was your idea, wasn't it, Mr. Friedel? It's a good idea. So thank you for that. Also, I walked all around the Rancho Potrero area with Mr. Hare. So thank you very much. I enjoyed that. It gave me more of an insight to that property and what we have. And though I had walked around it many times before just hiking, I enjoyed seeing it because I hadn't thought about it that much until all of this controversy came up. So that was very good. Not really a board function, but Jerry Westaby told me he wanted to walk around the Stagecoach Inn, and he was the president of CASA for many years, and he's just stepped down. So what I like about that is I really like these different agencies getting to know each other and getting involved with each other. And so he walked around, he wants to be a volunteer there now, and he has all these ideas. And So I think it's wonderful when we can get CASA people, McCray people, all of these different people kind of working together. So I should probably talk to community garden people, see if they want to put in a nature garden. Stagecoach is something we would love to have. But so I think that was the extent of what I did. All of it was pleasurable and lovely. So we don't have any requests for status reports. Does anybody have anything they'd like to talk about for subsequent agendas? No items from the public? Are we clear? Okay. We don't have an executive closed session, I believe.
Nope.
No, we do not. Okay, our meeting is adjourned. And we will re-adjourn in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody. And Doug and George, we'll see you bright and early. You're a border collie.
I'm a border collie.
A border collie like